Howdy on this Thursday. Welcome to the Digital Weather Desk powered by CenturyNext Bank. What's next for you? Visit cnext.bank for more. I'm Jared Floyd. And things starting to get a little bit clearer. In some instances, it's still clear as mud in terms of the rainfall forecast going into this weekend. But there are some things that we're starting to kind of clear up as we go into the weekend as well. It does look like we're going to have multiple rounds of rainfall. First one's kind of lackluster and scattered as we get some kind of decaying thunderstorms to our west that spill into the region relatively early in the day Saturday, and then the more widespread rain threat, which could bring some isolated severe storm potential, that moves into the region late Saturday and into early Sunday. Check of the water vapor imagery shows the big upper low system that's moving through the Four Corners region. This is the upper level storm system, a rather big, broad, slow mover that will be fueling the forecast and the rain chances as we go into the weekend. Your radar products, as always, made possible by Brown's Roofing. Schedule your free roof inspection at brownsroofingla.com. And it shows shower activity. That shouldn't be a big shock when you're churning up that much subtropical moisture ahead of a storm system like this. Shower activity increasing across portions of the Intermountain West, the Four Corners, and then stretching into the Panhandle, where rain has started to pick back up over the last couple of hours. Here locally, obviously, not a lot to talk about. We have some spotty stuff well to our west as they set up for what could be a very rainy day tomorrow. We stay dry, but our neighbors to the west start to see this storm system impact them. So here's the general thought process going into the weekend. Early Saturday morning, we'll have some pretty vigorous thunderstorms ongoing across portions of eastern Texas. General thought is, as these storms continue through the pre-dawn hours on Saturday, they're likely going to hit a point during the morning hours where the atmosphere starts to stabilize a little bit. We see it very often, and again, pre-dawn hours is when the atmosphere is at its most stable point. So you start seeing the environment kind of fight against thunderstorms. So they'll start a weakening trend. And then the leftovers of that spills into our area. Could be a few isolated thunderstorms, could be some scattered showers, could be nothing, depending on how those storms kind of behave early in the whole process. So that's early in the day Saturday. Midday, we may get a little bit of a gap in the rain. I know that there's a lot of folks that have either moved their outdoor plans inside or canceled them altogether. And as I mentioned in my earlier discussion, probably thinking, man, we could have gotten some stuff in on Saturday. It's a gamble. Even if you have a Saturday outdoor plan that you're going to go ahead and roll with, a wedding or something like that, you may have a chance. But it's going to be really, really, really tough to say that with any certainty. So again, kind of hit a gap in the rainfall. A lot of scattered stuff still kind of meandering through, cloudy, kind of dreary day on Saturday. And then the retreating warm front that's moving northward through the evening hours Saturday plays a pretty important role as a larger complex of storms starts to build and move into the area. The big question mark is how far northward that warm front can go. And that's what establishes what we call the free warm sector, which is essentially an area south of the front, this area in yellow here, where surface-based thunderstorms can develop. Anything north of the boundary is generally likely to stay elevated. It doesn't mean it can't bode severe weather potential, but severe storms don't readily form as efficiently in those types of scenarios. In the farther south and south of the warm front, in that warm sector, that's where surface-based storms, where gusty winds can get down to the surface a little bit easier, where isolated tornado potential can develop, and things of that nature as we go through the late night hours Saturday into early Sunday. Right now, it looks to be more of a Gulf Coast issue, and the severe weather outlook kind of illustrates that as well. But it is something that I wanted to kind of draw your attention to, just in case the severe threat starts to bump up a little bit over the coming days. Area of low pressure moves right over the top of us as we go through the day Sunday, so a lot of scattered showers left over, maybe even some wraparound light rainfall into Sunday night, and the same general story for the rest of Sunday evening. By Monday, we should start to clear out a little bit. Rena and Claudia, thanks so much for hopping in. Yes, we do need the rainfall. Greg, in terms of El Dorado, kind of the same general forecast. I would think that the severe threat may be a little bit more limited for you folks in southern Arkansas, just again, because the likelihood of you getting south of the warm front as it moves northward is pretty unlikely, at least the way things pan out now. Could still change. But I think periods of heavy rain will be a possibility. Look at total moisture made possible on the Futurecast by Bayou Power Sports, I-20 frontage road in Monroe. There's a lot of dry air it's still in place. And I'll show you dew points kind of toward the end of things here. And there's a lot of dry air still near the surface. We've seen some high clouds sneak in, but again, it's been a pretty dry day. Tomorrow is generally the same story. By tomorrow evening, we start to get some moisture back in. But in the general thought process, it won't be enough to generate rain. Maybe some cloud cover. Those will be on the increase through the course of the daytime hours on Friday. By Saturday morning, that first wave of moisture moves in, kind of on the back of those decaying showers and storms moving into the region. And that brings us a little bit more deep layered moisture to really work with, and we're starting to think about kind of all levels of the atmosphere, and the column of air above us starts to become pretty saturated. So obviously, if you don't see rain, there will probably be some scattered shower potential embedded there, and then the really deep layered, almost tropical like moisture starts to stream in. It's now you're working with 24, 36 hours of these southwesterly subtropical winds. And by that point, as the upper low starts to kind of move closer to our region, we really start to scour out some deep layered moisture. And that's where the best potential for periods of heavy rain come from. Clearly, thunderstorms will drive the heaviest rain totals. And that's even non-severe thunderstorms will drive the heaviest rain totals as we go through the next 48 to 72 hours. Check the drought monitor. And this shouldn't be a big surprise. Even with the rainfall that we saw last weekend, wasn't enough to really squash things across the area. This is the exact same image, just zoomed in. And we need the rainfall. And a slow, prolonged, soaking rainfall would probably be just what the doctor ordered, right up our alley. Futurecast rainfall, I'm going to show you a couple of different computer model takes on things. This is looking at basically a computer model trying to guess exactly what everybody's going to see. Is this going to be accurate? Of course not. But it does give us a good range of rain totals to kind of keep in mind. So there's some spots that kind of dodge the more concentrated heavy rain that may only pick up a 3/4 of an inch of rain to an inch of rainfall. There will be some areas that get some early rounds of thunderstorms and rain and then get the heavier round of thunderstorms to move through after and could see 2 and 3 inch rain totals. A check of what I call it's called the National Blend of it's called the NBM. It's essentially a weighted blend of a lot of different models. And so obviously these rain totals are going to be a little bit closer because you're thinking more along the lines of a bunch of data globbed together, and you're kind of looking at an average, but not. It'd be a weighted average if you were thinking about it that way. But anyway, it's a little bit more aggressive with the heftier rain totals. I just like to, if I'm going to give you a lot of data to look at, I'm going to give you as much as I think you need to know. These are some of the higher end possible rain totals that we could deal with. I think they're a little overdone. Most of us will probably be in the inch to 2 inch range, but the isolated 3, 4, 5 inch totals are certainly possible. Here's a look at the official forecast from the Weather Prediction Center. Again, I think it's fair to show you model data in a lot of different perspectives, if that makes sense. And then let's look at the forecast, because that's the most important thing. And that shows you the rain totals. Obviously, the higher rain totals will be in the southern and western counties and parishes as we go through the next 3 to 4 days. That doesn't mean you can't see a higher 2 or 3 inch total farther northward. They're just going to be a little bit more isolated if that's the case. Jessica asks, we have family pictures Saturday evening. Sounds like we need to reschedule. I would. I would normally say, oh, well, you can maybe wait and see. Saturday evening, it's going to be really tough. Unless the forecast were to really turn on its head between now and then, which I don't see it doing, it would make for a memorable photo shoot. But no, in all seriousness, no. You don't want to be out there. There'd be lightning potential and stuff like that. So I would start looking toward maybe rescheduling. Check of the flash flood risk, the excessive rain outlook, the thing that I kind of teased in the discussion there or in the description to the video. This has expanded out to include the vast majority of our coverage area. This means that, again, periods of heavy rain, storm-driven rains could lead to some localized street flooding and flash flooding. So that's what we're going to keep an eye on. The Moccasins play again Saturday. Man, they have such bad luck with rain. I remember one last year that the heavy rain right around that area, it was, oh, man, Civic Center parking lot was all nasty. I had to try to drive home in it, and I got off the interstate, and all the side roads were flooded. I remember that. They can't catch a break. So there's a look at the flash flood risk. Keep an eye on that. Poorly draining areas, low-lying areas, you know who you are. Be aware of the periods of heavy rain that will be a possibility. The severe weather threat is really focused across the far southern counties and parishes. Again, think warm front placement. And those are the areas that are most likely to be south of that warm front, kind of in that established warm sector where we could see some damaging wind gusts. An isolated tornado risk could materialize, just depends on how things pan out. Ethel, good evening. Pat says time to do some deep house cleaning. Probably not a bad idea this weekend, as long as people are not tracking mud through your house. It is a warm afternoon. We're in the upper 70s to low 80s across the region, and we'll probably be back there again tomorrow. Again, dew points are still very dry, so we have to overcome all of this dry air before we can get rain down to the surface. That's a process. It starts tonight, or it's already started generally above us, and we'll continue through the day tomorrow, and then we'll see the moisture really increasing late Friday and through the day on Saturday as that first wave of rain starts to move through. And that's another thing to keep in mind. The air is still fairly dry, so as that first wave of thunderstorms move through, it's also going to collide with some dry air, which may kind of zap storm potential for that first wave as well. Again, something to watch. Wind speeds right now out of the southeast fairly light, but those winds will pick up again as we go into the day tomorrow. This is not something that's impactful for us here locally, but it is something for vacation goers, especially cruise goers. If you have a port of call in Jamaica, you probably are not going to be making that port of call this weekend. Again, I know that a lot of folks won't be traveling to Jamaica anytime soon, but if you are, Tropical Storm Melissa is causing some problems. I know it's only a tropical storm, but it's not expected to move much over the next 5 days and is forecast to intensify into possibly a major hurricane, and the potential for rapid intensification exists there as well. So obviously, as you get a more symmetrical, larger, more intense hurricane, the potential for landslides and flash flooding and some pretty rough conditions and some pretty devastating conditions are possible for much of the island of Jamaica and much of Hispaniola as well. So that's, again, very unfortunate. Look at the intensity forecast. You can see, goodness, that the National Hurricane Center intensity forecast is kind of on the higher end of a lot of the guidance, but a lot of the guidance also suggests maybe some land interaction, and there's just some uncertainties, especially once you get beyond about 3 days in the forecast. Again, doesn't impact us here locally, but it's something regionally and in the Atlantic Basin that is obviously making headlines. Lows tonight, low 50s, few clouds, staying cool, winds light out of the southeast. Daytime highs tomorrow in the low end of the 80s. Again, the clouds start to move back in, and we will still be warm, especially considering where we are this time of year. Winds will be out of the south-southeast. 7-day forecast made possible by 3B Hardware. The rain chances at midday I had them at 50%, and I didn't like the illusion that gave in terms of the forecast. So we'll bump it back up to 70% and just say, hey, that includes a good chunk of the day. The rain chances for much of the area Saturday night into Sunday go up to 80-90%. By the way, if you download the Digital Weather Desk app, it's available for Apple users, coming soon for Android. You can go hour by hour, and all those little hourly rain forecasts, those are tied directly to what you see here. So a human hand had something to do, some way, somehow, with the rain chances that you're seeing on your forecast, right or wrong. And that human hand is me. I have two of them. Daytime highs fall back into the upper 60s to near 70 degrees behind a Tuesday-Wednesday front, which looks progressively drier at this point. But fall's here. Morning lows could fall back into the 40s in many spots by that time as well. That's a very, very extended look at the forecast. 15 minutes worth of just throwing a lot of data at you, and hopefully you're able to kind of handpick what you need to grab. Henpeck? What is that? I use it a lot. I don't know if you wanted to hand pick the data or henpeck the data or hand peck the data. I don't know. This is a weird way to end this stream, but a lot of data thrown at you. Hopefully you got what you needed, and obviously we'll recap things tomorrow morning. Your fishing game comes out at 8 o'clock this evening, and again, I'll join you first thing tomorrow morning with a look at all the latest data, preparing for what should be a very soggy weekend. I'm going to go Google that now. Handpick. Thanks so much for stopping by the Digital Weather Desk, powered by CenturyNext Bank. You can always download the Digital Weather Desk app, available on Apple, but again, Android users coming soon, and you get the